Hello everybody and welcome back to Talking About the Talkies. On today's episode we've got something a little bit different for you. We wanted to try something new. This episode is called, Is Season 3 of this show any good? And today we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead. Joining me as always is my friend John Heaney.
Hello Internet. How are we all? Are we all getting on all right here? Is everybody ready for our new hit show? Is season 3 of this show any good? Or for short, IS3OTSAJ question mark. Rolls right off the tongue, if you don't mind me saying so. Yes. So in this show we try to answer the age-old question: is season 3 of this show any good? Because it's a question that comes up so often, like just in general conversation. I find people are being like, this show, but is this third season of it, is it any good?
I'm always thinking it.
And that's what we aim to find out here, in particular regarding the hit show The Walking Dead, which just had its last season this past year. What's the old saying? It's like, you'd rather burn out than fade away. I would say the show more or less faded away.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I mean, I thought it ended and then they kept coming out with like new episodes, or was that last season? I haven't been keeping up. The main point of this whole show, to me anyway, is that we're going to figure out if the third season is any good, and if it is any good, we want to continue watching or do we not? You know,
yes.
and we're going to put together like the storyline from season 1 and 2. Funny enough, we've seen season 1 and 2 of this show, but our next videos, we might not have seen season 1 and 2 of that show.
Exactly.
So we're just going to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's not my favorite show, but we've both got some thoughts and opinions on it. So I would say if you want to just briefly there kind of discuss the show up until the third season here. So since we've both seen the first 2 seasons, for all the people out there, because I know we have a lot of listeners that live under rocks, or have been in 20-year comas, or they've been to outer space the last couple of years, or they've maybe they live on like in one of those oil rigs out in the middle of the ocean. They don't get Wi-Fi out there. Can you explain to people what is The Walking Dead?
Well, if you haven't guessed it, The Walking Dead is a show about zombies, and we follow our main protagonist, Rick Grimes, and a group of survivors. Rick wakes up from a coma after being shot while out on duty with his partner Shane. He makes his way to Georgia and meets Glenn, Merle, and T-Dog. Conflict strikes our group due to Merle being the ultimate redneck.
Hey! You ought to be more polite to a man with a gun!
The gang have no choice but to handcuff him on a roof and leave. They later come back to find that Merle is gone and find his hand is the only thing that's left. The group of unlikely friends return to a survivors camp, where Rick finds his wife Lori and his son Carl, and let's not forget his old partner and best friend Shane, who isn't best pleased to see our main man. We find out later Shane and Lori started a romantic relationship as they presumed Rick to be dead. We're introduced to the rest of the group. We've got Daryl, Merle's brother, Andrea and her younger sister Amy, Morales, Carl and Ed, along with their daughter Sophia, Jim, Dale and Jackie. Rick gets himself comfortable within the group and shows off his leadership skills straight away. Eventually, walkers attack the camp and they kill 2 survivors, Amy and Carl's husband, Ed. Morales departs from the group, and the rest of them head to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, in the hope of finding a cure, but they are told there isn't one. The scientist Edwin rigs an explosion and blows himself up along with Jackie, but not before providing Rick with information about the virus, although the audience doesn't find this out until later in the story. The gang sets off on a new adventure to find somewhere safe to live. And that's when we get to season 2.
So season 2 starts after the explosion at the CDC. Our gang are hitting the road. While they're trying to clear some shit off the road, a gigantic pack of walkers appear out of nowhere. Sophia, Carl's daughter, runs off into the woods like a fucking idiot and goes missing. So everybody has to try and find her for the rest of the season. Carl is accidentally shot by a wandering hunter named Otis, and the boy is operated on by a doctor at a nearby farm called Herschel. During a supply run, Shane and Otis go off to some fucking school that's overrun with zombies, and Shane decides to shoot Otis in the leg and leave him for dead for no real reason other than to show he's a bad motherfucker. Glenn and Herschel's eldest daughter Maggie start a relationship. They fuck one minute and then she's just inexplicably mad at him the next minute for no real reason, and then they fuck again, and it goes back and forth. It's good stuff, good wholesome farmyard action. Lori is revealed to be pregnant. Uh-oh, but whose baby is it? Glenn finds out that the barn on Herschel's farm is overrun with walkers that they're just putting in there because Herschel believes that they're still people. Shane goes buck mad at this revelation and opens up the barn to kill all the zombies inside. Inside they find Sophia, who is now a zombie, and Rick is forced to shoot her right in the head. Herschel goes crazy and goes off to get plastered at a local bar. Rick and Glenn set off to find Herschel as he's drowning his sorrows, but a gang attacks them. They end up capturing one named Randall, and they take him back to the farm instead of just leaving him to die like they did for the other people. Why did they save him in particular? I don't know. Dale is killed by a random walker. Towards the end of the season, Shane has now gone full-on bad boy. He takes Randall out of the fucking farmyard where they've been holding him, and then he kills him, and he says, he got away and I had to kill him, or something like that. While they're off looking for Randall, Shane and Rick get into a final confrontation. Shane does a big villainous monologue, and Rick's like, you keep talking to me. You tell me why I'm so bad. You tell me why you hate me. As he gets slowly close enough to shank Shane to death. Carl sees this and pulls a gun, presumably on his own father, but as it turns out, he's aiming at a zombie Shane who has been reanimated, despite not being bit by a zombie. How did that happen? Anyway, in the final episode, walkers invade the farm and they start wrecking the place. Everybody has to run away, and then at the end of the episode, Rick reveals the CDC scientist's haunting words that everybody on the planet is cursed. And if they die, they will become a zombie even if they don't get chomped on. During the getaway from the farm, Andrea gets separated from the group and is found by katana-wielding Michonne, who will be her new best mate going into Season 3. Season 2 of the show ends with Rick giving a big dramatic monologue about how it's no longer a democracy, it's a Rick-tatorship. Then we see, just a couple of miles away, looming in the distance, is the prison. But even though it looked like it was just down the road from them, they don't actually find the prison for like another 7 or 8 months, because there's a big time jump.
My days, is Season 2 long? Okay, right, let's keep this up. We'll go on straight into Season 3. This time we're going to break it up into individual episodes so that you're nice and caught up with us. Okay, here we go. Season 3 of The Walking Dead.
Spoilers for Season 3 of The Walking Dead. If you haven't seen this show that aired about 10 years ago or something like that.
Episode 1, Seed. This episode starts off with Rick Tatorship, his pregnant ass wife, and the rest of the Nerd Patrol. Andrea and Michonne have their own side thing going on. They get to the prison and they clear out some zombies. Herschel gets bit in the leg and they have to amputate it. The prisoners at the end comically pop into frame. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen now?
Episode 2. Sick! The gang finds a group of prisoners who, even after 18 months of zombie mayhem, somehow don't know there's a zombie apocalypse. They've been hiding in the prison for all this time, and I guess none of them figured out that there was a zombie apocalypse happening. The whole episode is the group teaching the expendable prison gang how to kill zombies. Then Rick kills one of them with a machete after he tries to take him out. Then they let the other prisoners live peacefully in another cell block. Carol does some C-section training that she never actually uses.
Episode 3, Walk With Me. So Andrea and Michonne are in the woods, and a helicopter crashes. They find one survivor. They get nabbed by Merle. He takes them to Woodbury where they meet the governor, Milhouse Van Houten. He takes them to Wood... I'm just like, what? I don't understand.
Because he's a nerdy guy.
He takes them to Woodbury where they meet the governor, Milhouse Van Houten, aka Milton, and no other characters worth mentioning. The governor is a lovely southern gentleman, but like most lovely southern gentlemen, he is hiding a dark secret. He's a fucking psychopath. He drives up to the National Guard in his gorgeous 2007 Nissan Altima and kills them all for some reason and takes all their cool stuff. I guess he wants to be the zombie king. He's also got his head jars and his zombie daughter. The man has a lot of emotional baggage.
Episode 4, Killer Within. Back at the prison, all hell breaks loose. The budget gets zapped when the zombies go fucking mad. T-Dog is on the brink of finally having another black character around, but he gets killed immediately. Laurie gives birth, but she dies to keep the numbers nice and even. Carol is nowhere to be found with her C-section training skills. Rick goes mad and cries. A meme is born. Good episode.
Episode 5, Say the Word. Rick goes mad killing zombies the whole episode. He finds a big, dirty, smelly, fat zombie and considers opening its belly to look for chunks of his wife. Sorry, did I say considered opening up the belly? No, I meant that he went full in on it. Our main man Rick has gone beyond the point of no return. Will he ever come back? Daryl and Maggie go looking for baby formula. Everyone just acts like Carl is dead, but really, we have no reason to believe that. Michonne continues to have bad vibes and fucks off out of Woodbury. Andrea makes a very small and silly decision to stay. She then complains about the zombie pro wrestling show the governor puts on.
Episode 6, Hounded. Rick goes mad hallucinating a phone call the whole episode. Yep, the whole episode is pretty much dedicated to Rick having fucking hallucinations. Who doesn't love that kind of time-wasting bullshit? Carol is found hiding. Andrea knifes a walker in the face and then fucks the governor. Merle and some other guys go to hunt down and kill Michonne, even though Merle was the one who let her leave. And also, why are they wasting time killing people who have already left the town? Maggie and Glenn somehow manage to get kidnapped by Merle. 2 guns against a one-armed man. Rick spots Michonne from about 150 meters away while she walks up to the jail covered in walker bits. Apparently he forgot that you could do that.
Episode 7, When the Dead Come a-Knockin'. Rick, no longer going mad, helps Michonne into the prison. Michonne is tight-lipped as ever and makes getting information from her needlessly difficult and confusing. They find out Glenn and Maggie got took. She doesn't say shit about Merle, the knife-armed hillbilly, or Andrea, who she spent the last 9 months with. Rick puts together a suicide squad to head up Woodbury, leaving his 12-year-old son, a one-legged old man, an exhausted woman who's been hiding from zombies for the last 3 days, and that one remaining prisoner left. The governor forces Maggie to get her tits out, and it's extremely upsetting and uncomfortable. Of course, neither Maggie nor Glenn ever get any revenge this season, and I don't think they even mention it again. Also, why does the governor give up so easily trying to win her over, but goes to great lengths to not lose the support of Andrea? I don't understand.
Episode 8, Made to Suffer. Boy, ain't that the truth. Mid-season finale, Tyrese and his group land at the jail, and we also see, for some reason, a gigantic chunk of the prison is just missing. Like a massive hole that's been blown to fucking bits that anybody can walk through. Decent enough episode. A lot of, we gotta go to a place and then shooting happens. Barely anyone gets shot except the one other black guy on the show. Bet the governor regrets killing all those National Guard soldiers now? Andrea's like, I want to use a gun, not check houses. Just do what you're fucking told, you idiot. Glenn rips the arm off a zombie as easily as ripping up a fucking chicken wing. We have a nice fight scene with Michonne versus the governor, and he gets his eye stabbed out of his fucking head. Andrea comes in to stop the madness. Michonne leaves and says nothing. She doesn't explain anything at all because that's her character. What is this woman's problem? There's also a scene in this episode where one of the members of Tyrese's posse has been mortally wounded, and instead of being like, you know, shoot her in the head and put her out of her misery, he's like, nah, let me do this shit. I've got my hammer. Which seems much messier and nastier and more painful, and like, why wouldn't you just let them shoot her in the head if she's suffering? Why, you really want to pop her in the fucking head with a hammer? Come on, Tyrese. That seems a little unnecessary. Shane pops in for one shot. Nice to see John Bernthal back. The episode ends with a cliffhanger of Merle and Daryl finally reunited, but they're captured and being fed to zombies. Wholesome stuff. That's the mid-season finale. Come back next year.
Episode 9, The Suicide King. The gang save Daryl and Merle from their deathmatch. The bros end up going their own way after they refuse to let Daryl's racist brother join the group. Andrea is still in the dark about everything, of course. Rick continues to go mad and kicks Tyrese's gang out of the prison, so they go to Woodbury. I guess these two places must be really close by.
Episode 10, Home. The governor doesn't trust Andrea, but he leaves Woodbury in her hands anyway. Our main man Axel gets a bullet to the dome when the governor leads a group of bad boys to the prison for a showdown. The outer fence ends up taking a beating, but the gang manages to send the baddies packing. Daryl and Merle regroup with our gang of misfits.
Episode 11, I Ain't a Judas. Andrea finally starts to realise the governor is an absolute madman, but still tries to reason with him. Being the reasonable man that the governor is, he lets Andrea and Milton make their way to the prison to talk to our favourite gang of good people? On the way to the prison, Milton and Andrea run into Tyrese's group. Milton takes them back to Woodbury. Tyrese's group offers to give the governor the plans to the prison as long as they can stay. At the prison, Andrea talks to the group. Nobody mentions the fact that the governor sexually assaulted Maggie because that's normal, right? Carl is like, you should kill the governor while you can. Andrea gets back to Woodbury but can't bring herself to kill this man because she doesn't have much of an option for banging due to the zombie apocalypse probably.
Episode 12. Clear. The Rickster, Coral, and Michonne go back to Rick's town to gather weapons from the police station Rick has access to. I guess he just kept the keys for the last year and a half. On the way to the prison, we see a lone stranger backpacking. The group ignores him though. When they get to the town, we learn that Morgan is still alive, but he's all kinds of messed up because his son has now been chomped on by biters. They leave Morgan in the town and get the fuck out of there with some supplies. On the way back to the prison, we see our lone stranger has been eaten. The group share a look as if to say, "Glad that's not us, right?" Ha ha! Carl and Rick decide that Michonne can stay put.
Episode 13, Arrow on the Doorpost. Rick and the governor finally meet face to face. Andrea is there too and stuff. Governor says that he wants Michonne. She did take his eye after all. The governor says that he'll leave the group alone as long as he gets Michonne. But the Rickster doesn't believe this, because he's smarter than he looks.
Episode 14, Prey. Andrea actually finally figures out that the governor is an absolute mad bastard. She learns of his plan on killing our main crew, so she leaves to go tell Rick and the gang. The governor chases her down. She manages to pull a little sneaky on him a few times, but apparently the governor can teleport, so he gets to her just before she reaches the prison. While everyone was gone, Milton burned all the biters that were planning to use for something, I don't know.
Episode 15, This Sorrowful Life. Surprise, surprise, Rick decides to do something without consulting the group. He decides to deliver Michonne to the governor, so he asks Merle for help. The most shady dude in the entire prison, and Rick asks him for help. Merle insists that he does it alone. Uh-oh. On the way to the drop-off point, Merle starts to feel for Michonne. What? Character building! We all know where this is leading to. The governor is too wicked smart for Merle, so he ends up killing Merle. Rip Merle. Michonne meets Darryl on the way to the prison and is like, "Yo bro, let me go." Darryl goes to find Merle. He's a dead biter corpse now. Darryl puts Merle out of his misery, but he's super sad about it.
Episode 16, Welcome to the Tombs. The governor is absolutely fucking sick of everyone's shit right now. He fatally wounds Milton so he will die and turn into a zombie and then eat Andrea. Milton plants something behind Andrea's chair. She's all tied up though, so she can't get to it. The governor takes a big group to the prison for yet another attack. The group looks like they're packing up to leave. When the governor arrives, the group have already disappeared, but oh wait, the group hasn't left. They were expecting the Woodbury Warriors apparently. The group shoot at everyone's feet for some reason and the Woodbury Patrol get the fuck out of there. In all the commotion, a young boy from the Woodbury survivors runs into Herschel and Carl. Carl guns him down without a moment's notice. He's a fucking monster. The governor is still absolutely sick of everyone's shit, so he guns down literally everyone in his own group. How many bullets does this man have? Infinite amount. He doesn't shoot one important character because she's too integral to the storyline. The governor gets the fuck out of there. Rick and our group of sexy survivors find all the dead corpses of the Woodbury Warriors. The sole character who survived tells the Rickster what happened so that they go to Woodbury, run into Tyrese and all those guys. They go to find Andrea, but she's been bitten by Milton because she wasn't able to reach the wrench that he put there in time to open her cuffs. This is all very compelling stuff. She kills herself, and the scene is actually filmed like it was supposed to be sadder than when fucking Rick's own wife was killed. The group takes everyone from Woodbury back to the prison instead of, just staying in Woodbury, which is a nice wee town, but everybody just goes to live in the prison. That makes loads of sense. This is where our show ends. And we're back. When The Walking Dead was big, it was fucking huge, and I'd say this is probably, maybe not in terms of like actual quality of the show, but in terms of like how popular it was, this is the kind of start of like the peak of when everybody was talking about the show.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a big season for The Walking Dead at the time because, there was so many deaths. I mean, there was a lot of deaths in the first season and the second season, but there was a lot of deaths to main characters in this season as far as I can remember and go back. You've got the death of Laurie, you've got the death of, I think his name was Oscar, or was it, the guy that he's pretty much was there from season 1. Let me think.
I'm drawing a blank here. Which guy? Who is he?
Supporting T-Dog.
T-Dog, the sole black character on the show for the first 2.5 seasons.
Yeah, it's he dies as well. You've got some main characters dying, but then you have some real strong scenes where these characters have died. Like Laurie's death was probably a shock to everybody at the time. I remember a lot of people back in the day talking about it and being very shocked at the way that she did die.
Yeah.
So it was quite a big season for that, I think. Yeah, there's like parts of the season where it really dragged for me. I thought Laurie's death. I didn't think that was done very well, to be honest. It wasn't as shocking as it happened in the comics, but then again, it's a TV show. You can't do what they...
You could not have done what they did in the comic books.
No.
In the show.
It's not as shocking as the comics. Obviously, I knew this was coming because I've read the comics. I read them before I watched the show. And, Rick does get into quite a big depressive state afterwards, and he's hearing Laurie on the... Sorry, I just banged my microphone. He gets into quite a depressive state, and he hears Laurie on a phone and stuff after all this.
Yeah.
But he has left the prison at this stage in the comics, but they stay in the prison in the show. But, it's the whole ghost Laurie situation that I just really couldn't, get into. It really dragged for me. It just seemed really dumb. To me, it was like that scene in Scream 3 whenever Sydney's mom's like, Sydney, and she's out in the garden and all. It was just like, it was that surreal weirdness about it that a lot of shows do, and a lot of TV shows do, or movies do, where it's like the ghost of this past relationship's back to haunt me, kind of thing. And I just can't really get into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But overall, my overall sort of opinion on it is very, 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 very mediocre.
Yes.
I thought, I think parts of the episodes were good, parts of things happening. Like, I really liked the scene with Glenn. He's tied up and he's in Woodbury, and they let a walker, or a biter that they call them in this, into his, the room that he's in, and he breaks a chair and ends up sticking the bit of broken chair through the zombie's head.
Yes.
And I thought that was really cool. that gave Glenn a real cool arc, or not really an arc, but like a bit of an edge moment. To him. Yeah, a bit of an edge, made him kind of a little bit more badass.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you want to see in these kind of shows. But it's overall, I think season 3 is not great. I do hear though that it does get better eventually, but then it sort of drops off again. It's just one of those shows, I think, where it's just like it goes up, it goes down in quality, it goes up in quality again, and then down. And I
think the thing is that I don't really think that there's any seasons that are particularly strong. There's like the Walking Dead had this thing where like they would have like really like high quality episodes in a season, but it's not like there's any like one season where you can point at and be like, this fucking season here is just bangers from start to finish. It's more like there's a lot of mediocre pondering around, bitten about the place, characters breaking off into groups of 2 and chatting to each other, and just really like soap opera kind of level, like character stuff, and people being like, oh, this guy said something about me and I'm about annoyed with him, and then breaking off into another group and being like, no, you completely misunderstood the situation, he was being really nice. And because you got to put something in the episodes, you got to put something in the show, and then you get these like really heightened moments of like quality action. Like I remember when we watched the season together a couple of years ago, like I think the first couple of episodes we watched like in a row, and
we did kind of enjoy.
The season starts off like not particularly well written, but there's like a lot of quality action.
The whole thing that they start off with Rick being this relentless, just I don't care about anybody but the group that I'm in.
Yes.
I will do anything to keep them safe. Like that whole prisoner throwing the zombie on him, and then he just straight up machetes the guy in the head because he just wants to make sure that everybody's okay. I like that aspect, but they don't. From what I feel anyway, they don't really. It doesn't really show it later in the season because he's up against the governor, like we said in the recap. He doesn't do anything to the governor, you know, and it takes him a while. You know, he waits until somebody else is dead or he's killing other people before he actually starts to want to do something, you know?
Honestly, I think the biggest problem with The Walking Dead is the fact that it did go for so long, and it felt like... It doesn't feel like there's like a proper kind of line for these characters to go on. They just kind of bounce back and forth depending on, like, Rick is the worst one. Depending on what the situation is, he'll just kind of bounce back and forth, because I've seen the whole fucking show start to finish, and it's like some episodes Rick is like, he's snapped and he's gone mental and he's out for blood and he's out for him and his group. And then other times he's like the good Samaritan, where he's like, nah, I gotta help these people out, and, you know, I gotta be a good guy. And then, like, he'll just snap back and forth between that kind of, you know, relentless, cold-blooded leader and, like, the good Samaritan kind of guy. And it's like, there's no particular rhyme or reason to it. It just kind of keeps bouncing back and forth, because they don't actually have, like, in like a show like Breaking Bad or, you know, something like that, there's a very clear line that, like, the Walter White character, you know, obviously it's not a fair comparison, it's a completely different type of show, but you can see that character from, like, episode 1 up to the end, and it's a very straight, like, line of things that happen to him, how he reacts to it, and how he keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse as it goes on. Rick just keeps bouncing back and forth between good guy, kind of morally grey guy, oh, he's maybe a bit of a bad bastard, kind of, but then he's just like, night. Carol's another one who does that. There's like 4 or 5 different fucking parts in this show where she goes and, like, she's like, oh, I gotta go off and run away and do my own thing, and then she comes back to the group, and then she's there for a while, and then she's like, oh, I gotta run off and do my own thing, and then she comes back. Even the fucking show in and of itself, like, obviously we're getting into, like, you know, further down the line in the show, but every season of this fucking show nearly is, we gotta get to a place where it's safe. Oh, we're at the place where it's safe. Oh, it turns out these people are maniacs. Oh, we're in danger now. Oh, we gotta kill them. Okay, next season. We gotta go to a new place where it's safe. Oh, it's not safe here. Oh, they're maniacs. It's literally the same fucking show over and over again. And I mean, you can even see that now with the fucking 5 different spin-off shows that they have announced, that they never really had, like, an actual end game for the show. And I think to me, whenever you're making a show, you gotta have some idea of how you want it to finish. Like, even if it has to change throughout time, because that's the nature of TV shows. Things get popular and that you didn't expect to, or things, you know, kind of change naturally
different
as it goes
characters
on.
get more popular, so they want to keep that
you gotta
character.
You gotta change things as you go, but you also need to at least have some kind of, like, end game for it. And they clearly just they never. That's the big problem. They never really had an actual end game for it. They never knew where they wanted to end up, and they still don't know where they want to end up, because now they're going to do even more shows in the future, and it'll keep going on and on forever. But to me, that's the story of The Walking Dead, is just constant, like, a need for an episode to put on this week, but not really having an actual destination. I guess kind of like the characters in The Walking Dead themselves. They wander from place to place, storyline to storyline, character to character, and they just never really have an actual end game in mind or a destination. Everything's just kind of, it just keeps going for the sake of the show still being on the air.
Yeah, and it saddens me a little bit, because they do have the original content, you know, the comics to fall back on, and I think the comics do have a very good storyline. You know, I think the prison storyline in the comic books is done so well compared to this. I mean, you know, there's a lot of fannying about, to be honest, in this season compared to what the comic books did, and I think the comic books developed character a lot better than this TV show did, and you could argue the fact that, you know, this TV show had a lot more minutes with these characters to develop these different aspects of their character, but they didn't take the opportunity to do that. Or whenever Rick and, I think, is it Michonne, go back and meet Morgan from season 1 again.
that felt like an episode from a TV show from, like, the 90s, where there was no, like, back then it was like every episode was like a kind of standalone episode, and there was maybe like a tiny bit of like an overarching kind of plot line. TV shows don't really work like that anymore. There's not really very many TV shows that don't kind of follow week to week, episode to episode.
I will I will fact check this, but I'm fairly certain that the reason they put that episode in that season is because Morgan is in one of the spin-off shows. So I think they were reintroducing him through The Walking Dead so people knew who he was whenever that show came out. I'll fact check that, but I think that's right because it just seems that...
He's definitely in one of the spin-off shows, but he goes back and forth between the spin-off show and the main show as well, because he pops in for The Walking Dead at some point, and then, much like Carol, he ends up leaving for a while, and I guess just going off to a spin-off show, and then he comes back, and sometimes he's crazy, and sometimes he's, getting his shit together, and he's not crazy anymore.
Yeah,
and then
I'm pretty sure he's like got a bow staff and stuff in later episodes.
Yeah, he
does.
He's like a ninja at certain points. It's pretty fun. And but no, and I mean, just to kind of follow up on what you were saying from the comics, it's like I haven't read all the comics, but I know what happens in them, and Rick's got a pretty clearly defined, start, middle, and end to kind of his character. He's got a nice narrative arc of going from the good guy to being the morally grey guy to back to being the kind of, white meat, babyface, good guy hero. Yeah. And that's a pretty clear character arc. And it's a shame because it's like, I think one thing that we would always say is that like it's the writing of the show that lets people down, because just to kind of get into like some of the performances in the show, I think that they're almost like, there's a few questionable performances in there, but most people in the show are really fucking good.
Yeah, I would agree.
Andrew Lincoln is awesome. We talked about John Barenthal. He's great. I think what he called
Stephen Yeun probably one of my favorite actors.
Yes, he's great in the show. Kyle Chandler is the Carl, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's his name. Yeah, the kid.
I think
he's good.
He turned out like, obviously he was like 10 or something in the first couple of episodes or something. He's very young, but I think he, as the show goes on, he becomes a pretty solid performer in there. And yeah, it's mostly the writing that lets these people down. Like Laurie Holden is Andrea. She's a good actress, but she's just, her character is so inconsistent, and this is another big problem that I have with The Walking Dead, and you can see it a lot in this season in particular, is that nobody makes any rational decisions on this show. People just do things, and it's not even because it's like, you can understand because of, emotions and like, they're, making a bad decision, but the show kind of showcases that it is a bad decision. A lot of them just do stuff that you'd be like, no human being would ever behave this way. We talked about Michonne and her tight lips. Nobody in this show is ever just like, here's the situation, here's what's happening.
Andrea never mentions anything about what the governor's been at, and she knows a lot about him. Merle never says anything. It makes no sense. It's just you can't relate to that kind of thing if people aren't acting like normal humans.
Even whenever like Michonne tries to get Andrea to come with her, she's just like very vaguely being like, this place is fucked up. And it's like,
yeah, do
you fancy elaborating on that a wee bit? Maybe I'd be willing to come with you if you kind of open up your mouth a wee bit. And she's like, this place is fucked up, man. If you don't get it, then fuck you. What do you think of Michael Rooker as Daryl? Or no, Merle. Merle Billy.
In my eyes, there's not much that Michael Rooker can do wrong. I really like him as an actor. I mean, the first time I ever seen him or knew who he was in a movie called Cliffhanger with Rocky, what do you call him again? Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
And I just, from there, I was like, you know what? I really like Michael Rooker. Like, he's the bad guy in that movie, and he just owns it, I think.
He's very entertaining, like, in pretty much any role he's in.
And I really like him in this show. I mean, he's one of the redeeming qualities of it, I think. But I mean, you can't go wrong with a great actor. And like you say, a lot of the actors are great in this show. Mm-hmm. But just there's something about Michael Rooker on camera you just really enjoy. In my eyes, anyway. I think he's
so joyful in just being a piece of shit. It's great stuff. What do you think of Daryl? aka Norman Reedus is his name, isn't it?
Norman Reedus, I think,
he's getting his own spin-off show.
He is, yeah. I think Norman Reedus is a really good actor. I think he kind of came in and sort of stole the show from people. Like, it basically turned into his show at the end,
Yeah,
as far as I know.
He's not even in the comic books, that character. It's just they just made him up for the show.
No, they made him up for the show, him and Merle. But I think they were two really good additions, I think, to the show, and I do like Darryl. I do think he's a good actor. Norman Reedus is, and it's a good arc for Darryl. And I like that they sort of put him and Carl, not Carl, but Carl, in the sort of section where it's like these two are friends, and I do like it. I mean, he is a good actor, and I like him in other things as well. I played Death Stranding, and I do like him in Death Stranding, but I'll not get into that game.
Yes.
But yeah,
otherwise we will be here for 5.5 hours.
Yeah, and Blade. He's in Blade too, and he's very good in that. I thought he's a wee scumbag, but
one of the only things I can remember him in is The Boondock Saint, which I don't like that movie. But
I've never seen it. But I've never been.
It's worth checking out, I would say. Willem Dafoe is completely off his head in it, and he's the best part of the movie by a country mile.
Yeah, if you could summarize this season and tell me in a few words what you think of it, and if you would watch the rest of the show, I mean, if you're talking to someone that's never seen this and they've just happened upon our video, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them to find a better TV show worth their investment. It's a weird one. You know, The Walking Dead is like, it's never been the highest quality show, but at the same time, it's not really supposed to be. It's never really, even though it's kind of bandied around in like conversations with like, you know, the fucking golden age of television and the Breaking Bads and the Mad Men's and stuff. It's not that kind of show. It's more of an action soap opera. But
yeah.
It's hard to really kind of just get into because so much of it just feels so fucking stupid. There's a lot of quality stuff in here. There's good action. There's, you know, quality performances. It really just kind of is let down by the writing, and I think a lot of the characters don't really pay off in the way that you would think that they should, you know.
Or that you would hope that they would, kind of thing.
There's a couple of high points in here, but overall the season is much like a lot of The Walking Dead. It's a few good episodes sprinkled amongst a ton of really boring filler. If you're watching this for Rick's team versus the governor's team, and you're expecting that to kind of tie up nicely after the season, they end up doing another Walking Dead special, which is prolonging shit again until the mid-season finale of season 4. And there's some really fucking boring shit in like early season 4 that's entirely divorced from Rick's storyline, and it's all just about the governor.
I mean, you expect in a season for everything to end, and then it, you know, promising new things in the next season. You want it to be, you know, you want the season to end and you want to be excited for the next season. But when this ended, I was like, well, I guess that's kind of it. They didn't wrap up anything really.
It ends on like basically a mid-season finale. It's weird because you can carry stuff over onto the next season. That's grand. I have no problem with that if you want to keep some things like burning, and you know, but you need to have like a big thing to kind of tie it off with, and this season just ends on like a fart.
Yeah, it sort of ends as well with Carl shooting some guy, and you know, and you're like, whoa, yeah, he's a bad egg. He's not a good guy anymore. But then I don't even think they really go into that after. Although, then again, I haven't seen season 4. I only watched recaps of the rest of the seasons because I was interested to see where it goes after season 3.
They do some stuff with Carl. Again, that's another one of those things that's like extremely central to like the comic books that they do not do justice to in the show, is the relationship between Carl. I can't even say it right now. I'm saying it like
Carl.
Carl. And those relationships are just not. They're not focused on enough.
But if I could just sum it up, the season, I mean, I think it's just very lukewarm, the entire season. It's very boring at times. I had some really good fun. I mean, me and you had some really good fun watching the first couple episodes, but then I feel like we sort of got burned out near the end. I would recommend that if you're listening to this and you do maybe want to start The Walking Dead, season 1 I think is a solid enough season.
Yes.
Season 2 starts out kind of solid, gets really boring near the end. Again, sort of the same as this one. But if you want to do it, maybe watch it with some friends, because there is some really silly points that you can talk about and you can have fun with. I mean, the only reason we wanted to do this in the first place is because we thought The Walking Dead is so bad that it must be a little bit fun to watch, at least with some friends. So this is the segment where we're going to give out awards.
the golden talkies. So, Stephen, who's your MVP for the season?
Well, I'll give you my MVP for this season. You might not agree with me, but I really, really like Stephen Yeun as Glenn. I think he is MVP of all of The Walking Dead. I just really like his character. I mean, in this season, he was sort of a whiny little bitch at times with, like, you know, he's like banging Maggie and stuff like that there, but it's just that chair scene. I just think that chair scene is really cool, and Glenn did a good job killing that zombie, the character Glenn, and Stephen Yeun did a good job acting in that scene. So I'm going to give it to him because I like him.
That's fair. Completely fair. I gotta give it to Big Dick Rick, Mr. Andrew Lincoln. I think that the show really was just put on his back, and, you know, like I said, there's a lot of good actors in the show, but from start to up until the moment that he left the show, he brought his A game. Like, there are scenes in the show which, if he wasn't a part of them, would just be completely laughable. And, you know, obviously everybody has their laughs and their jokes about the fucking choral scene and having a breakdown, but the man's wife has just died. It's a bit overacted, but I mean, the guy's wife just died in childbirth, and now he's got a fucking a baby to look after in the apocalypse.
And it's not even his baby as well. So
yeah,
the man's a good guy.
Most likely it's not his baby, but yeah, I mean, I give it to him. I think that he did an admirable, more than admirable job throughout his entire tenure on the show. And he's got a damn good American accent for being an English bloke.
An Englishman.
Yeah,
fair play to him. Mr. Love Actually himself.
The man himself.
The next awards. John.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the best and what do you think is the worst episode in season 3?
It's been a while since I've watched it, but I probably would have to give it to best episode would probably be episode 4, aka the Laurie death episode, Killer Within, which it's mainly just a gigantic brawl in the cell blocks with the zombies and the people, and there's a lot of fucking, you know, zombies getting shanked and people dying and high drama and stuff, but
it is one of the best episodes.
It's one of the episodes that has the least amount of, like, filler baggage in it. I mean, like, there's probably a good bit in there, but in terms of the rest of the season, there's not as much kind of, like, sagging of that episode. It's a lot of, you know, action and stuff, and, you know, at the end of the day, that's probably The Walking Dead's main strength, is having some quality action and some high stakes moments. So I probably would just have to give it to that episode by default. Probably worst episode would be, like, I think the one that comes right after it, or maybe 2 episodes. I think it's episode 6, Hounded, which is the Rick hallucinating on the telephone episode, which is the worst of the Walking Dead style stuff, where it's just a bunch of fucking stalling and, you know,
nothing happening,
hallucinations
really.
And stuff like that, but not interesting or, you know, exciting or, you know, weird kind of stuff. You know, no, like, visual flair, no.
That's
you know,
I think that
nothing in that episode really. It just and also I think the worst part about it is that it's built up as, like, they don't reveal that it's a hallucination until the end of the episode, even though you probably already know, okay,
you sort of guess it.
It's not a working telephone. Rick's probably just going mad. But the revelation, or, like, the twist at the end is that Rick's just hallucinating all this shit, but it's like 40 minutes of him talking on the phone, and then it's, like, revealed that it's a twist, even though we already knew that was going to be it. But that's the whole payoff to it, is that he's hallucinating. So we're just watching a character have hallucinations that don't really add much or have any kind of intrinsic value to the show, and then the end payoff is that he was hallucinating. It's like,
Yeah.
we know.
It's sort of, yeah, it's obvious.
So you just
you're like,
wasted our whole entire 45 minutes of this fucking episode dedicated to something that we already know was a hallucination.
They had to drag it out, and I guess that's the showrunner, not the showrunner, but the producers, Hollywood's fault. Whoever, the network, it's their fault. They made their writers do this, so we can't give too much shit to the writers because they do what they can.
The most annoying part though is whenever there is like all this stalling going on, that like people that watch the show and like it will be like, oh my god, it's character development, lad. Oh, you just have such a short attention span. Can't you just appreciate these characters developing? But
yeah,
they don't develop any of the characters. Everybody just stays in the same spot, and sometimes they go one step forward and then sometimes they go one step back. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll give my.
What were your best
opinion.
and worst episodes of the season?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, I'm gonna choose for best episode 1, Seed.
I was torn on that one versus the other one that I chose.
Yeah. Because I don't know that whenever we watched it, we just had such a good time with
Yeah.
it. When we watched it, I think we near the end or during the episode, we were on Discord, we were talking. I was saying, I'm actually enjoying this. What is happening? I'm actually having fun. It's just, with Herschel getting bit in the leg, the amputation, and them running into the prisoners and things like that. Like it had a lot of, there was a lot of fun in that episode, I really think. And I think that was like the episode where they popped their head out, the prisoners popped their head out, into frame in like a comical fashion.
Yes, I think that's the very end of the episode.
Yeah, it made us laugh, so I had a lot of fun with it. But for me, I think the worst episode is the episode with Rick and basically the governor just sitting in a room in this like barn-looking place, and
Again,
all the characters.
That's the other episode I was torn on for worst episode.
I just hated that episode. When we were watching it, I wanted it to end, and I was getting frustrated with because I'm pretty sure Andrea is having a conversation with her old group outside the place. The old group's not mentioning anything to Andrea. Andrea's not mentioning anything about the governor, and you're just sitting there like, what is actually going on in these people's heads? Why can they not be normal people?
It's negotiations that lead to the exact spot that we already knew they would end up in.
Exactly. So therefore, why didn't Rick just shoot the governor when he had the chance? Even after even saying to Andrea, "You should kill the governor."
Stephen, the final award that we're going to be giving out here is the unfortunate one, the Pour One Out award, which will be awarded to deceased cast members there. And we do have someone who has passed away recently from the show, and that was the actor Scott Wilson, who of course played Herschel, Maggie's dad, old farm man. So he basically kind of took over the role of Rick's mentor after they very early on killed off Dale, who had to leave the show there, probably because of Frank Darabont getting fired and all the drama that went down with that. He's been in all of Frank Darabont's films. The Walking Dead fired him, and very quickly after that they killed off Dale much quicker than he died in the comic book. So bit of a conspiracy theory there. But Herschel kind of took over as the older, wiser member of the group. And he unfortunately, that actor had passed away in the last few years. So pour one out for Scott Wilson, aka Herschel Green.
And what a great actor he was as well. He did such a good job in season 3 of The Walking Dead. One of the standout actors. But yeah, pour one out to Scott Wilson. Great actor.
So that's it for season 3. But what was next for The Walking Dead? Season 4, of course, in which we finally get answers to the question, who is the true king of the zombie wasteland, Rick or the governor? Well, they don't call him Big Dick Rick for nothing. After some really boring filler, the final showdown at the prison sees the governor decapitate Herschel, and Michonne finally gets her revenge on the lovely southern gent. After this, we get a classic Walking Deadism. The prison is overrun with zombos, and everyone gets separated into smaller groups. Then they repeat the usual process. Let's go here because it seems safe. Oh no, there's cannibals here! Gotta fight them and kill them, while meeting some new friends along the way. Let's go here because it seems safe. Uh-oh, there's politicians here! Well, that seems slightly better than the cannibals at least. Let's hang out here for a bit. But uh-oh, here comes Negan.
Pissing our pants yet? Boy, Do I have a feeling we're getting close?
Negan enters the show, and we end season 6 with a classic Walking Dead bullshit cliffhanger. Negan bashes someone in the dome with his barbed wire baseball bat as a blood filter streams down the lens, like some kind of shitty student film.
Well, that was a lot of build-up for a relatively disappointing climax.
I sure hope it wasn't somebody important. Oh wait, never mind, it was just this guy. But then, bam, double whammy. Negan kills our main man Glenn in front of his friends and pregnant wife. Maggie seems really upset by this, and I don't think it's just the pregnancy hormones. Boy, that was exciting, but now it's time to slow it down. Slow it way down. As usual, this all-out war gets stretched to its elastic limit, and ends with our sexy cowboy Rick shanking Negan in the throat, only to have a change of heart and take mercy on him, imprisoning him in a dungeon for many years. Actually, maybe that isn't very merciful at all. Well, that'll add an interesting character dynamic going forward, with Negan as Rick's prisoner. But hold your horses, deadheads! Andrew Lincoln is fed up and leaves the show in season 9. See, during the Negan storyline, The Walking Dead decided it was a great idea to kill off Rick's son Carl. Yes, coincidentally, right around the time that he turned 18 and would have had to have been paid as an adult. So just like that, the most important character dynamic of the entire show is gone, and not long after, so is your most important character. That's not good. We get an extensive time jump, and apparently they took the Poochie approach to Rick's disappearance. Whenever Rick isn't on screen, everybody should be asking, where's Rick? But enough about that fucker, we've got the Whisperers attacking our wee community now. A group of people cosplaying as zombies who roam around with them also. This raises a lot of questions, but don't get distracted by all that because it looks really cool. After the Whisperers are defeated, we move on to our final big bads, the Commonwealth. I'm not even going to waste time on the Reapers because the show sure didn't. The Commonwealth manage a giant town square filled with people, businesses, and life getting back on with it. Think Woodbury, but much larger. But the shocking twist, they're corrupt. Who could have ever seen that coming? And our heroes battle against them to reclaim society and end their final season on? Any guesses? Multiple cliffhangers! Will Maggie and Negan be able to work together in New York City? What will Daryl find in France? What happened to Rick? And Michonne? What's with these zombies that can climb walls and pick up objects? We haven't seen zombies do that since season 1. Oh wait, no, actually don't talk about that. And for the love of God, won't somebody please answer this final question for me? Who the fuck actually watches Fear the Walking Dead?
Alright, thanks everybody for watching. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, leave a wee comment if you feel like it. If you didn't enjoy it, leave a comment. We love the hate comments.
Yes, indeed. Feed us your hatred comments. We love to hate ourselves, and we want to know that everybody else hates us as much as we hate ourselves. So if you want to do that, go on ahead there. And also, I guess we'll just tip our cap here and just to let everybody know that we are planning on doing at least one more of these videos, and it's on a show that I have never seen and know absolutely nothing about, but I know that Steven has seen at least a few seasons out of the 527 seasons that are currently, I think it's still on the air, isn't it?
I think I stopped watching in season 6, like midway through season 6. It's not on the air anymore. It did finish there.
Okay.
And we will discuss it, and we will, we'll go into it a little bit.
And what's that show?
That show is none other than Supernatural.
Oh my heavens.
We're sticking with the Negan actor and Maggie's actor. I can't remember their names, but they're in the show.
They're both in it. Okay,
yeah, so
okay.
we're, it sticks to the theme.
Are they in season 3? Yeah.
They are indeed.
Oh, so at least we'll have some familiar faces to keep us company.
Exactly, but yes, tune in next time for some Supernatural. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Good night, and God bless.